Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the host of Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation and processing possible. In today's episode, we're talking industrial automation with Greg Jackson, who is CEO of SmartSights. There, he is a strategic leader with a unique blend of 30 plus years experience and achievements in international sales, business development, operations, and product solution development. Greg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be here.
So tell me, did you choose your career or did your career choose you?
I think it was a little bit of both. So I'm one of those people that was fortunate in terms of the opportunities that were laid out in front of me. So I started in the technology space. And then as I got different opportunities, it kind of took my career in a path that I wouldn't have imagined at the outset, but has turned out to be incredibly rewarding in terms of working around manufacturing and the industrial automation sector. And I think if you would have asked me in high school if I would be in that area, I would say absolutely not. But when I look back at it, which is, 30 plus years now, which seems like a very long time, all along the way has been just a different level of appreciation for what people do in utilities, in manufacturing plants and infrastructure projects. And it's constantly evolving and changing. And it's awesome. It's really neat to see. And, there's been major milestones kind of along the way in terms of as industry and technology has changed. And so I've really benefited from some really opportunistic chances to dive into this space and be a part of it for, 30 plus years now. So it's really been fun. It's been rewarding, and I'm still energized by it every day in terms of what's still on the horizon.
If you're at a barbecue, although I don't think anybody wants to be outdoors right now, it's August, but if you were at some sort of social setting, how would you describe to lay people what it is that you do?
So our company today provides analytics, reports, compliance, and notification solutions for both industry and infrastructure. So that's a big range of capabilities that we offer. What's interesting is the different applications that we see. And so in one instance, it might be a compliance report for a water treatment plant. In other cases, remote notification for a pharmaceutical company that's monitoring different batches to make sure the quality stays in sync. In other cases, it might be monitoring the packaging equipment and the fermenters in a brewery, one of my favorites. And then in other cases, it could be a gas pipeline. And so we're working on we're helping to monitor and enable people that have the care and feeding of these sophisticated systems to stay up to speed if something goes awry. So it's really interesting in terms of the way that the technology gets applied and put into place to help companies be much more efficient in terms of what they do. So we're at the intersection of different systems in different industrial plants. Whether it's an automation platform or different applications historians, we interact with a lot on the reporting side, different MES and other production management systems. And so we play at the margins of all of those things, and we extract data, we process data, and we try to put it in meaningful ways that help people do their jobs better on a day in and day out basis.
So tell me the story of SmartSights. How did you begin? How did it evolve? Tell me that story.
It's a really great question. The story, I'll say, is a work in progress. while the name is new, the companies that power the company today, the people that power the company today are not. They've been around for a long time, 25, 30 years. So what's really interesting is the two companies, SyTech and Win911, started to fulfill a need and fill a gap in terms of automation system platforms and what was available in terms of systems that companies needed at the time, but they didn't necessarily see a way to get them. And so that's always interesting to me in terms of the founders of the two companies. I'm not one of them. I'm fortunate to inherit the company today. But what's really cool is in both cases, they saw a need for an application of technology to make things better. And they were able to figure out how to do that and how to evolve it over time. So that's a long time to stay relevant in this industry. So you have to do it through relationships. You have to do it through foresight. One of the really interesting things in both instances is the importance of the systems integrator community to both of our companies, and even more so as we go forward. They were the ones that needed this, so they didn't have to do a bunch of custom work themselves. In both cases, they're oftentimes the systems integrator community recommends us. They're the ones that implement the software, and they're the ones that actually, in many cases, increasingly do the care and feeding of it over time in terms of managing upgrades and stuff. So our relationship with the systems integrator community started, right, in terms of, hey, we need some products to fill these gaps. We were able to do that for them, and it's a key part of our go-to-market strategy, which I think is very beneficial and meaningful to us. One of the challenges that we have now is, hey, how do we combine the capabilities of these two great companies with great track records? How do we leverage a larger team of people to kind of make it even better and more meaningful and give better outcomes for the customers that use our technology today? So it's an exciting time. So we're at the front end of this next wave, I like to say. We've done some things already to integrate the capabilities of the reporting product with the notification product. And we have some other things in the works that I think are going to make us even better and easier to implement. We're going to make it easier to maintain over time. And then obviously we want to make the products even more valuable to those that have to use it every day.
So SyTech and Win911 merged and came out under this new brand, SmartSights. Tell me a little bit about how you came up with that name.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually did work with an external firm, which was terrific because they've done this before for others. The company's name is Twin Engine. I give a shout out to them because they have some terrific founders and they really guided us through the process. And so really it was a three-phased approach. One of it was, hey, how do you look internally and what do you stand for as an organization and what are the characteristics and core values and what do you do? So there was an internal piece that we surveyed people. We had focus groups within the company. The second phase was an extended circle, and that's actually where we reached out to our strategic partners, our systems integrator community, our distributor community, got input from them. And again, when they think of the capabilities that we have or that we build or interacting with the company, what does that mean to you? And then the third piece was really looking at the entire ecosystem of what's available in industrial software and industrial automation, infrastructure software, same. And they came up with a series of different names and logos and brands. So we debate those. What does this mean to you? And we test it with different people. We research it to see if we could get the rights to the domains and all those types of things. And that's how we landed on the name SmartSights. We're excited about it. It's new in terms of just getting the information out there. It's amazing how many pages of information of our products exist, throughout the world. It's a long haul to get all that done. But we like it for a number of reasons. I think it signifies, the capabilities that we bring from the, insightful solutions. But it also speaks to the fact that we want to grow our portfolio of products. And we'll do that with internal innovation and development that we're already working on. And in the longer term, we're also working on additional acquisitions that could become part of the family that make us even more valuable in close tangential areas to what we're doing today. And then, bringing them into the fold. And we felt that this name gives us a lot of extensibility. It signifies that we are providing intelligence and insights to people to make good decisions about, how they're operating their facilities. And Early days, but the feedback so far has been pretty good.
A rebrand is huge. It's such a heavy lift. It's everything from the pens that you hand out at the trade show to your boilerplate, everything. So congratulations on that. Psst, come closer, my little chickadees. I want to share a little known fact about CSIA membership. Are you ready? Here it is. This is the best time of year to join. Why? Because CSIA dues are prorated, which is just a fancy way of saying that when you sign up to become a CSIA member now, you will get the rest of this year and all of next year included in your membership dues. Plus, the same is true for any CSIA Industrial Automation Exchange upgrade or package. Of course, CSIA membership is value-packed no matter when you join, but it's kind of nice when you feel like you got a little something off the secret menu. You know what I mean? For more details, visit www.controlsys.org/shine. What are you waiting for? Let CSIA help you and your entire team achieve big things. So getting back to the discussion here about the company, is there a product or industry or discipline that you specialize in?
There's not a particular product or industry. For the Win 911 side of the business, it really grew up in the water, wastewater industry, but the applicability of notification cuts across all industries. So that's a significant portion of our business, but by no means all of it today. So we play in I'll call it the utility sector. So there's water, there's power. I'd almost put data centers into that same category. It's a core resource, so our applications are deployed there. A big presence in food and beverage, in life sciences, in oil and gas, and also in manufacturing. And the same is true for Excel Reporter, where there's disparate pieces of data that are out there and disparate systems, which is true in most manufacturing environments, is they need something from a notification standpoint that can pull that information together from different systems and get it out via one format. And the exact same is true for analytics and reporting and compliance. So there's all these different systems. It might be an LM system, it might be an historian, it could be an alarms and events database. How do you connect into those systems? How do you tie it together? How do you process it? And then how do you present it in meaningful ways? And I don't know of an industry out there today that can't benefit from that capability. We're excited about the roots that we have in the core places that people know us for, but we're just as excited about the extension into other sectors and doing more with a larger set of customers going forward.
Are there other suppliers that you partner with?
There are. There's a number of strategic vendors that we've worked with for a long period of time, and they're the major automation brands. So Rockwell Automation, Aviva, Schneider Electric, Emerson is another one, General Electric in their automation and control division. So we've been fortunate to have partnered with those folks for literally decades, again, because we fill a hole in their overall portfolio. We have great working relationships with them in terms of being in sync on release schedules so that we can access the information that we need in an effective and seamless manner, which makes it easier to implement the products. And then we also work with their larger ecosystems of partners. So that's the combination of the systems integrator community and different distributors. So it's been a very positive, growing, expanding, evolving relationship over these years for the company. And we look forward to that continuing in the future. And we also expect that as we do more and make it easier to connect into some of our capabilities, that we'll do even more with more layers of the onion, if you will, in the manufacturing technology stack. And so we look forward to that.
So we've talked a little bit about how the company has grown and evolved. Well, let's take an even deeper dive. Tell me what you expect to happen with the company in the next 12 to 24 months, what's changed in the past year, that sort of thing.
In terms of what's changed in the past years, one is from a people perspective, we've gotten a lot bigger. We've roughly doubled in size. And so part of that is a challenge, right, in terms of making sure that you have the right systems and tools in place to make people as efficient as possible. And so that's a combination of the technology stack that we use to run our business every single day. So we've been working hard on that. The other piece of it is how do you, with a larger organization, how do you communicate? How do you onboard people? increasingly, we have more people. They're scattered across the country and across the globe a little bit more. So, the tools of being able to do that effectively are important. We have 2 centers of excellence, one around the reporting and analytics compliance piece based out of Boston, and then the notification piece is based out of Austin. And as I mentioned earlier, as we grow and acquire more capabilities, we'll have some other centers. So that's kind of the snapshot of the history piece. What I see on a go-forward basis is a lot more around how do we take these components that are valuable in and of themselves, marry them together in some creative ways and innovative ways that give better outcomes and capabilities to end customers. And so we're excited about that. There's a lot that's going on in the larger ecosystem in terms of how environments are changing, with respect to security, with respect to how do you make workers more productive, all those types of things that we have to evolve ourselves to, the methods that we use to notify people. Those are always a constant changing problem for us to solve. Connections into additional systems. And in some cases, it's not a system. It might be a particular device or a particular piece of equipment. So staying up on the drivers that it takes to make that all happen, it's a really exciting time for us.
So you mentioned that system integrators are a big part of what you do. Tell me about your system integrator partner program. I assume you have one.
We do. It's arguably our most important program, I would say. Right now, we're in the process of how do we even enhance that further. So as I mentioned earlier, systems integrators are often, they're the ones that are the truth sayer in terms of what's going to work in a particular environment. So they're a great source to us of feedback and knowledge. So our program, we've actually had a couple over the years, and we're working on evolving to just have one. And so it's a combination of how do we make our software available? How do we make training available on the software? How do we make support available, to this community? Because again, they're the ones that are putting it into plants and making sure it runs, and then oftentimes maintaining it over time. And so we're putting the programs from the 2 companies together. We're excited about what that's going to look like. And then we're also looking at, hey, how do we make this program even better around some ideas around more digital content, for example? So can we have training modules that enable somebody that has this particular application to be able to go in and do that most effectively from a SI perspective? Can we have some competency training modules that are available? Those types of things. We're rebranding some of the things that we've done historically around Smart Talks. So how do we have Smart Talks for compliance in a particular industry? How do we train the system integrated community around that? So we've done a series always of ongoing training and support. And sometimes that's in office. A lot of times it's evolved to be virtual. And so we're just in the process now of saying, okay, we've had a couple of different programs between the 2 organizations. How do we put those together to make it even better and best enable and support the systems integrated community, because they're, in many cases, our lifeline to the customer.
What kinds of challenges are you seeing in industrial automation right now?
There's a couple big ones. One of them is really around just the age of systems that are out there today. And there's a whole modernization, the digitization in many cases. There's been components of that have been out there for a long time, but people are trying to pull systems forward because many of the automation platforms might be 15, 20 years old, which is old. In a lot of ways, not in a technology sense, but those systems work. And so one of the challenges is, hey, how do you pull this system forward? It's evolved over this period of time to make sure it's still functionally good, and do it without disruption to the core business that you're trying to upgrade it for. So that's one of the changes that we're seeing today. One of the other big changes that I think is going to help companies like ours is the support and adoption of open standards. So OPC has been around for a long time. There's various different flavors of it. One system, it would be great if it talked to this one. In the past, they all have their own proprietary protocols. So, how do you exist in that? And how do you make sure that you're supporting open standards and initiatives? I think that helps the SI community. I think it helps our customers. It helps companies like ours. So that's another big trend. And the other one is really around people in terms of getting a younger generation actively involved in the manufacturing sector and the utility sector. It's a fascinating area, as we chatted about earlier, in terms of the complexity of what happens to make products available, to make water clean, to make drugs to a certain quality, all those types of things. But a lot of people don't know about it. And so I know that's an effort of the CSIA to be able to recruit and attract people that might not have that on their radar as a career option. Hopefully that's getting, all the efforts of everybody that's trying to do that. But I see that as a challenge. And then parcel with that comes, how do you get those people up to speed effectively? How do you make sure that they're efficient? For us, the challenge is, how do we make our tools and technology easier to implement, easier to maintain, and easier to support, and more meaningful in terms of the interactions that they have in the larger ecosystem. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, but it's as exciting as ever, in terms of the overall space and the ability to go in and solve some really complex problems that you take for granted at the surface, but need to be solved for everybody.
Have you heard? CSIA recently released the latest version of the Best Practices Manual 6.0. If you're unfamiliar with the BP manual, all you really need to know is that it is a crowdsourced, reiterative guide to scaling an SI business. The best part? It's written by SIs for SIs. And the bestest part? It's absolutely free to CSIA members. To learn more, visit www.controlsys.org/best practices. I truly think that you're going to be glad you did. It's quite impressive. What makes you optimistic about the future of the automation industry?
The people. At the end of the day, it's the people that are in it today and have been in or made careers of it are there for a reason. They want to do a great job day in and day out. They're passionate about it. They solve complex problems for customers, which is the amazing thing about the systems integrator community, the engineering disciplines that exist in different categories that make all this stuff happen. And it's one of those things where when you interact in that ecosystem, there's always a new challenge that needs to be solved. And my experience over all these years is the people that are doing that day in and day out have an optimism about going to solve this problem and feeling good about it at the end of the day. That makes me optimistic. And then the other side of it is there's this sense of inquiry around, hey, how can we apply some of these new technologies? Or this might have been tried in this other industry that's not in automation, but how can some of that get applied into this space? There's a sense of curiosity that's out there. And when you get a chance to feed off of that, that's pretty cool. And then from an internal perspective, when we bring a challenge to the team and say, hey, this is what's happening with respect to an upgrade cycle that's going to impact our products, or whatever the case may be, people get excited about, hey, how do we solve that problem for somebody else? And so my optimism stems from the internal team that we have that loves what they do, and they do a great job of it every day. And then really in the ecosystem that we live in around systems integrators and the automation vendors and partners, there's an excitement about, hey, what's this next wave? How do we bring all this stuff forward? And so that's pretty invigorating.
What would you say is the biggest benefit of CSIA membership for SmartSights?
There's a couple key pieces there. One is the first CSIA meeting that I ever went to, I did not know a lot about the organization. And so I went to it and it was an eye-opener. And what was really interesting to me was there was a series of different tracks. One was around business fundamentals, one was around technology, one was around people. And it was interesting to see the openness in terms of the sharing of people that might be competing for a particular project, but also the need to kind of solve different problems. We're a vendor that is kind of on the periphery of the overall purpose of the organization. But the group itself is impressive from the standpoint of they'll tell you what they think, good or bad, which is terrific. It's, I'll say, a learning organization, right? So it's trying to pull things forward. And I think people's attitude is, I don't have all the answers myself, but I'm going to come to this forum or engage in participating in this, and I'm going to get as much out of it as I put into it. And so it's not like the other associations that we belong to because of that. The leadership in the early days has been passed down and they want to share. There's a lot of really, really valuable lessons learned. So for us, it's a real source of feedback. It's a source of, in some ways, inspiration because, they're trying to solve these same problems that we're trying to solve. And it's one of the most open organizations I've ever seen or been part of. And I think that's a testament to the people that are, part of it. And, as they get more people in, I think they've been able to maintain that. So it's really an important organization for us to be a part of. And we appreciate the opportunity for sure.
So my whole career has been spent in the association world. So I've worked with a ton of different associations. And you are right. This one is very unique in its openness and willingness to share and help each other. It's really a nice environment to be in, to be honest. Love that.
The other thing, if I could add, which is really interesting, is in so many cases, there's systems integrators, companies that started with a person or two and they grew it. And in some cases, it was the family that grew it. It was the whole family. Right. And, there's a lot of the largest systems integrator companies, organizations, a lot more corporate today. But that sense of, hey, let's take care of everybody here is pretty cool. And I haven't seen that in other places. I always enjoy the opportunity to go and I get way more out of it than I put into it. So it's really one of the ones you circle on the calendar for sure.
So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about you. Tell me about a time that you maybe failed at something, but ended up being proud that you failed at that.
Yeah, you don't have enough time to cover all those topics. For most people, there's different projects that you might take on that you're assigned. And if it's completed, it's successful. But what's not seen is that to get it to the point of completion, it's not a straight line. It's that chatter, it's failure. We tried this, we tried this, we tried this. And so there's been multiple instances where I've been involved with, going back earlier in my career with bringing a new technology to market. And you think that you have all the answers and, hey, it's going to work like this and people are going to perceive it this way and all these types of things. And it's never that path. And so it's a spectacular, failure. And I think in some cases, the younger you are, I think the harder it is to kind of accept that, but it's a wake-up call. And so I've had experiences in doing that, thinking that this was a great technology and the market timing was off or it just wasn't right. And so I think the failure in that I didn't necessarily appreciate was how important the first instances of iteration are and the feedback loops. And so the ability to say, hey, we have this idea. What do you think about this? And even though you might be incredibly proud about what that idea is or that piece of technology is, then you bring it to the market. And this is where the SI community is great. And they're like, that'll never work, and they'll shoot holes in it. And that fear of failure is something that I think everybody has it at some point in their life. But the ability to say, hey, if you're open and transparent about what you're trying to accomplish and you ask for sincere feedback, it's your responsibility to actually listen to that feedback and take it into account. And that makes things better. And so there's been different points in my career where I didn't take that approach and it just hasn't worked for whatever reason. There's a certain maturity to it. I got no shortage of, losing and gray hair, but I like to think that I've learned some of my lessons along the way to be open, to be transparent and to ask for feedback and take it in a meaningful way.
If you had to choose a completely different career, what would you choose?
Oh boy, that's an interesting question. So early on, when I first went to university, I honestly thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I'm glad that didn't happen. I ended up getting involved in the technology tracks. And so I'm glad it evolved that way. When I think about it now, sometimes I think it would be interesting to go back and teach. So I think it would be interesting to, teach a course around technology or leadership and technology. So I think that would be an interesting area. I think about my university experience, and it's the people there, it's the energy from it, the insights and the enthusiasm that comes with it. Sometimes I think that would be an interesting thing to do, is to go back and give something back in that forum, because I haven't done it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it would be pretty invigorating in terms of being able to share some things and then also learn, how people are thinking about, solving problems today.
What's the best advice you could give your younger self just getting started?
Listen more.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Greg or SmartSights, you can find them on the Industrial Automation Exchange at www.csiexchange.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Greg, for joining me today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also really help the show by leaving a review and sharing with colleagues. We're all just slaves to the algorithm now, so I gotta ask. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.